So again, council would have the opportunity to direct staff when this whole menu of things are brought back to council, whether they wanted to fund street improvements with bond money. Park development, you've seen part of this slide before. We do have, as you know, undeveloped parks which have been deeded to the city and which are not being used because park development is fairly expensive. So you have whole neighborhoods where you do not have a usable park. So the parks master plan has development. You've seen several of those plans. I believe 4 of them come through, which with fairly aggressive price tags. Those plans are developed with the input of the neighborhood, brought forth from the Parks and Rec Commission, and then brought forward to City Council. Council has accepted the plans, has not approved them or adopted them, but accepted their plans. So the price tag on those, if they were developed full out, would be several $million. Parks and Rec staff have developed a plan to phase park development to include landscaping, pathways, and playground installation to allow public use as soon as possible. Doesn't mean you're going to get amphitheaters and splash pads and some of the amenities that some of the neighborhoods wanted. Those can come, but it would allow at least some sort of incremental development so these communities or these sections of the community have availability for a park, at least for children's use. So up to $1 million of the 2017 Geo Bond was proposed to be utilized for that purpose. We're now exploring a combination of bond funding, and of course this is incremental, so staff will be doing a lot of the prep work and the construction work, a combination of bond funding and Hamilton funds for council's consideration. The Hamilton funds, of course, would be utilized in conformance with the Hamilton bequest, that it be used as much as possible by the Parks and Rec Department for the advantage to young children in Moscow. Okay, inadequate shop workspace and fleet facility. Those of you who have been out to the city shop know that the facility has problems. Staff has been doing a great job out there, fleet staff, street, water, sewer, Parks and Rec staff, keeping it running. However, it is woefully inadequate for the number of people in it, as well as the equipment that's being worked on and space. Workbench space is at a premium. Any office space out there is essentially at mezzanine level with plywood walls. Any air conditioning, which there is not very much of, are window units. It is very much a 50s and I'm not even sure it's 60s level shop. It has things, it's got issues that need to be dealt with. Council recognized that and declared that to be an MCA. Obviously, the Comprehensive Facilities Plan made the same finding. So we've been accumulating some funding in the water and sewer enterprise funds. However, streets and parks, as special revenue funds, do not have enough funding for even the most basic capital funding. So to siphon off a certain amount of money, put it in a separate capital account for use for a facility is almost impossible to do. Park development would drop to nothing, and any monies that are taken from the street fund would be monies that were not put into street infrastructure. So we have council authorized TCF architects to work on a public works maintenance facility planning study, which is anticipated to be ready for review in the summer of 2017. That plan is, I've seen preliminary drafts of it. The cost of a new fleet facility is expensive, and it is something that we will have to bring to City Council. Council will have to review, and we will develop alternatives based on that council review. So again, we are not prepared to move forward in 2017 with any plans for moving on the city shop facility. It's still a priority, still working toward it, but we're not prepared to present you with a plan in time for any 2017 bond issue. Aging downtown improvements, we have you know, downtown is utilized in the city of Moscow more than any other downtown I've ever seen. Downtown Moscow and the activities that occur down there are the envy of virtually every other city in Idaho. It's a great downtown. It's utilized summer, fall, winter, and spring. The last time it was renovated, except for Friendship Square itself, was 1980 when the couplet went in. It was renovated to get the downtown traffic off, or excuse me, the north-south Highway 95 traffic off of Main Street, shuttled off to Washington Street to the north couplet and Jackson Street for the south couplet. And it was renovated at that time pursuant to a LID process. It was one that Walter's laughing because it was in the Supreme Court for several years. However, it was the funding mechanism did work. However, we're also looking 35 years in the rearview mirror, and a lot of that infrastructure has not been touched since that time. The aggregate crosswalks, the bulb outs, street furniture in some cases needs to be replaced. There was a resurfacing that was done on the street about 5 years ago, if I recollect correctly, but the infrastructure is failing and it needs to be addressed. So cost of those improvements are also being prepared, and we have a pretty good idea of them, where it will fit in Council's priority list when we bring the menu of potential candidates for infrastructure to be funded with a general obligation bond. Will have to be considered by the City Council. So it brings us to our recommendations. Staff's recommendation is to delay the general obligation bond election until the spring of 2018 to allow time to explore the potential federal building acquisition to meet the police department and other city facility needs. Again, we have just begun preliminary discussions with Gritman Medical Center. We're very happy to be able to meet with them, but it is still very preliminary. There's a lot of water that still needs to go under the bridge. As with any acquisition, you're talking about timelines and tenants and price and remodeling costs and structural integrity of the building, all of those sorts of things. We're currently retaining an architecture firm to assist a city team in assessing the building in order to determine if it in fact is adequate for city needs. That's anticipated to be done within the next month or so. We'll be able then to bring forward incrementally whether the first hurdle can be crossed, and that is, or first bridge to be crossed, and that is whether the facility meets the city's needs in the raw. In other words, does it have the basic things that the city needs, both in terms of square footage and facility. So once that's done, we can go to the next level and begin the next discussions. So that can't be done. May is fast approaching. Certainly we could have a bond election in November. Not the best time to have a bond election. It seems that people are more apt to get out, understand what the bond election is about, and more amenable to those sort of elections in the spring. So that would be the target we'd want to look for. So secondly, we will bring back to you, if we're given this direction, to authorize the purchase of one fire truck, a pumper engine. I'm not sure what vernacular the fire department is using this week. To me, it is a pumper truck. To them, I believe it's called an engine. And direct staff to develop a funding proposal for future fire truck or fire fleet replacement. Again, that could be funded all or part by general funding, and it might be, the conclusion may be that because of the fact that of our structure in the city of Moscow, maybe a Geo Bond is the best way to do it. We'll bring that proposal back to City Council, but certainly we are prepared to, we have the funding and are prepared to move forward in a purchase of one truck at this time. Lastly, finalize proposals for the remaining MCAs that I've already beat that mule enough. We've talked about what they are, how we hope to approach them, And then, based upon the outcome of the exploration and the proposals, bring a Geo Bond proposal for your consideration in the fall of 2017. Of course, we will anticipate appropriation for that in the FY 2018 budget as well. We should have at least a preliminary indication to put a budget number together, but we won't know what the entire cost will be, and bring a menu to the City Council for you to consider. Upon that, then we will be looking for prioritization and for allocation, how large the bond issue could be, and which priorities fit in within that number. So that's the direction we're seeking tonight.
Questions for Gary? Walt?
Gary, I may have missed it, but the older city council goal of entryway beautification, is that under miscellaneous, or where'd that fall?
You did not miss it. That was not an MCA proper. It was a goal of the City Council, which we are directed to continue to move toward. It currently is sitting on my desk, and
Good.
hopefully we will have
You know where it is?
Yes, sir. It is not something that staff has forgotten about, and we've taken council direction on it. So any fault with not moving it forward lies with me. I will try to remedy that situation.
Other comments? Gary went through that pretty good. It's pretty detailed on the direction we're heading. So,
Are you looking for a motion, or you looking?
Well, we need some kind of, doesn't necessarily need to be, I don't
Consensus
think,
or what?
a consensus. I don't think it needs to be a motion. We just need to let Gary and city staff know the direction we're headed. We had originally planned a 2017 bond. That's not going to happen. City staff is looking for is the direction, because we're working on this thing with Rittman to see how it all works out with the federal building and so on and so forth. Once we get those kind of the rest of that information together for us is going to give us more of a clearer picture, but we're looking at a bond that would come around probably in May of 2018. That's what we're looking for, or city staff's looking for, I should say.
As far as I'm concerned, pursue it. Yep. Me too.
sound good
I'm
to
on board with
everybody?
that.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you very
Good
much.
enough.
Appreciate it.
Is that what you need?